Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Jabate, I welcome you to the discussion. And my first question is always straightforward. What is secularism? What is secular? What is a secular state? And why is it desirable or not desirable to the Gambia?
All right, thank you. And let me say greetings to all of you. I'm enjoying the exchange as I come in and sitting here. And taking part of what he was saying and what I see flying around our country on this issue, I think there's a huge misconception. Secular, of course, the literal meaning would be of worldly affairs as opposed to spiritual. So when you say something is secular, that is worldly on earth. Something spiritual is, of the, of the spirits, of something, mystical and those kinds of things. Now, there's no religion in the world that celebrates secularism in terms of, and certainly not Islam and Christianity. All of you know, in our Gamo, in our Friday sermon khutbah, what we are taught in school, in the Dara and everywhere, is that we don't live for this earth. That this world is nothing. This world passes away. This is not our home. Our home is in the hereafter, the next world. Is that not what they teach us? That let us not be obsessed with materialism. Let's not be obsessed with vanity. Let's be decent. Let's be, humanistic. Because we don't live for here. We live for the next world. That's what Islam teaches us. To be humble. Yes, that we are not mountains. No matter how big you are, I can be as big as the mountain. Don't be arrogant. That's what Islam and Christianity, that's what they teach. And that's not secularism there, because they are not teaching you love the world, love life, love music, love food, love laughter. They don't teach us that. They teach us no. Even if you laugh in moderation. Even when you eat in moderation. Is that not what they teach us? That is the fundamental teaching of Islam and Christianity. That's what they teach us, not secularism. No. Now, secularism, therefore, from that spiritual point of view, is a completely different matter when it comes to secularity from a political governance point of view. You see, before we got to this point, all of the world was engaged in what is called feudalism. I'm the king, and the emperor, we conquer that community, and conquer that community, create an empire. Sunjata Keita was the head of the Mali Empire. All right, we had kingdoms. As it were in Africa, it was the same in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas, the Native Americans. They had big empires, Inca Empire, the Roman Empire, for example. All right, the Chinese Empire, call it what, the Qin or the Xin Empire. So we had empires, and leadership is by heritage. You die, your son takes over, and it goes on and on like that. Now, religion is a part of culture, of the people's culture. It's and a very important part, because religion helps to cleanse culture. Because every people have a way of life. But religion is that part of culture that cleanses your culture, that civilizes you as a human being. Like he said, there's a bigger power. So that even without the police, what makes me have self-control? That I wouldn't meet with a woman at the street corner at night and rape her. That I can see your shop open and I won't go and take your things and move with it. And I won't go and stab you because I want your property. Something controls me, and that's my belief, that I don't live for today, I live for tomorrow. If I do this, one day I'll pay for it in the day of judgment. So religion has important values, So in European history, it happened that at one point the church was very powerful, the Catholic Church, all right, and they had rulers, all right. So there was a very powerful spiritual leadership, but there was a very powerful political and worldly leadership. You know, the kings, the emperors in Europe. But what was happening, the Roman Catholic Church, because for some reason it happens, it's not just in the Gambia, it happens the ruling class, the political class, would always collaborate with the spiritual class, because it makes ruling power easy to control. Because the rest of the masses, they believe in spiritualism, they believe in God, they believe in religion, they believe in their religious leaders, their imams, their bishops. And so if you control those bishops, and the bishops are in line with the ruling class, the king, what happens is the bishop makes the rest of the people also fall in line. So it makes sense, all right? And so the kings, the bishops at that time in the Roman Empire, they collaborated, or they were in, cooperation with the political class to a point that the Pope was conferring the title of Defender of the Faith on various European kings, what in Islam we call Nasiruddin. Peter I, some of you who read history, Peter I, King Henry VIII of UK, Peter I of Russia, Henry the Navigator of Portugal, all right? I mean, Napoleon Bonaparte of France, all right? And these were very brutal kings, particularly King Henry VIII of England, who eventually had a difference with the Pope and the Catholic Church, that he took England out of the orbit of the Catholic Church and created his own church called the Anglican Church. So Europe was going through severe oppression and exploitation. People may think dictatorship or oppression, exploitation is it's an African thing, but I tell you, Europe has produced some of the most brutal, oppressive kings the world has ever seen, and one of them is King Henry VIII of England. So in these 1600s, as enlightenment was emerging across Europe, in fact, in that European context, they call that period the Age of Enlightenment. Or you must have heard of the word Renaissance. That's a French, from a French, like rebirth, rebirth, coming back again, coming to life, So that period, in European history, they call it the Age of Enlightenment, because that was the time they were beginning to have ideas of human rights, of human dignity, of justice, and all of these things that today we are talking about. So revolutions began to emerge, in England, in France, in Germany, in Russia, various places in Europe. And as they emerged, they began to, change the political landscape in Europe. So the king, for example, of England, his powers were so reduced that today you look at the Queen of England, she has no power, just a ceremonial head. So they transformed their kingdoms into what became known as constitutional monarchs. There are still kings in Spain, in Portugal, in Belgium, in Netherlands, in Sweden, in Norway, in England, all right, so on. But they reduced their powers to just a ceremonial head. All right? In other places, they completely dismantled the kingdom and feudalism, because feudalism is also that caste system, is part of it. Some are, Jalol, Nin, Julol, Nin, John, Nin, Forol, Ude, Tega, Jam, all of those things. We compartmentalize society, and leadership is by inheritance, hereditary, and all of those things. So a transformation was taking place. So France or Italy, they completely dismantled the kingdom. They said they want a republic in which there's no authority over the people, the sovereignty of the country resides in the people. That is what is a republic. Now, as that was going on, suddenly, knowing that the background was a very close connection between the state and the religion, to the point that in Europe at that time, I'm sure some of you must have read about Galileo Galilei. Now, Galileo Galilei was a scientist, and he made the point that the world is round. And they said he is smart. The Pope said he is smart. And he was sentenced, banished. Before him, in the 13th century, there was a scientist called Copernicus, who was the first to create the idea that the world is flat. But because that time the church was the one that controls the narrative, it was considered as Antichrist. How can you say the world is flat when God said in the Bible that the world is round? You know? Up to the 16th century, those who read philosophy or history would have heard of the René Descartes, a French, philosopher, all right, who was a mathematician. So he came with theories. I am, therefore, I think, therefore I am. What is the definition of me? I think, therefore I am. So if you think, how do you define that I exist? He said, if you think, then you exist. But his works, he never published them until he died. Because at that time in Europe, to engage in mathematics was considered as Antichrist. You are against religion. I'm just going to give you some background so we understand, what all these things meant. Huh? So that when we got to a certain point, and the serious political changes were being made in Europe, what happened was a new state was being created. An executive, a parliament, a judiciary, which were all in one person called the king at that time. So they separated all of that, but it required that also, when that institution is created called the state, let it operate on laws that serve everyone and not laws that are based on religion. And that is what brought about the idea of secularity of the state. So that the state is secular. The state is not a human being. You and I are human beings. I cannot be secular. I'm sure he cannot be secular. She cannot be secular. And none of you here will be secular because you believe in a religion. And in none of your actions drives it. So you can be secular. Yes. But we have an institution called the state. And let's take an example. Let's say this is American Corner, for example. Let's imagine this is a state institution. This institution, the American Corner, has to be secular. Government can say American Corner is Muslim, American Corner is Christian, American Corner does not believe in God. No. Because this is not a human being, this is a building. It's an institution, people gather. So Muslims can come here, Christians can come here, do their activities, non-believers can come here, do their activities, and American Corner remains American Corner. That's what secularity is. But more than that, the state recognizes that the people of the republic are not secular. They are spiritual. They believe in God. They believe in religion. They worship. They practice their religion. So the state has to also support them to protect that right, one, that I will practice my religion. And nobody would stop me from practicing my religion. But more than that, that the state would enable you to even perform your religion. So it's Friday, the state says close work at 12:30, so you have a chance to go to mosque to pray. That you have a Bible in the court. When you appoint as minister, you swear you believe in religion, you believe in Islam, you believe in Christianity. Take your Bible and swear. All right? We have schools. We have to teach our children moral education, and we can derive that moral education from schools. I mean from religion. So let's have Bible knowledge and Islamic knowledge to teach our people to have good morals. The state supports that. It's Tobaski, the state says, let's take a holiday. So that the members, the people who come and work in the state, they believe it's their right to practice their religion, to worship. And one of the practices is to observe Tobaski. So we give them a holiday. Alright? So what the state is doing is protecting your right to religion, but also providing you services. Because if the state says, go home, close early so you can go and pray Friday, go home, work today so that you can observe Christmas or Easter or Tobaski, that's a service the state is giving you on the basis of your religion. But what the state cannot do is, we want to make a law to build a road. What did the Bible say about building a road? What did the Quran say about building the road? No, the state cannot do that. Because then it means the state will provide a service that will discriminate somebody. So in making law, the state can say, we want to make the Youth Act. The Youth Act. But that Youth Act has to be based on the Holy Quran. No. Or on the Holy Bible. No. It will make a law that whether you are Christian or Muslim, that Youth Act will serve your needs. If you are Muslim, in that Youth Act, you will find it is very good for you to be even a better Muslim, or a better Christian, or a better citizen, above all. So they create a law for that. When they get an institution that there is going to be a National Youth Council, they don't look at it, okay, let's see how the Bible or the Quran says we should build an institution. No. They build an institution bearing in mind in this republic, the citizens are Muslims and Christians and non-believers, and so this institution should serve all of them. So that is what a secularity of the state means. So I am particularly shocked, honestly, in these past few weeks. And I see Gambians talking about secularity of the state means people will not pray on Friday, people will not, and they'll be brought down mosques. I mean, there are multiple Muslim nations that are secular in their constitution. And you know, even when you go there, the manifestation of Islam is stronger than in the Gambia. One place is Turkey. You know, the manifestation of Islam in Turkey or in Tunisia is stronger than in the Gambia. But they claim that their state is secular. You know, so I think, I still try to understand how did this fear come, because 1970 Constitution expresses a secular state. In the 1970 Constitution, it is there that every Gambian citizen has a right to religion, freedom of religion. You can only see that in a secular constitution, in a secular state. You go, the Constitution of Saudi Arabia, you Google it now, they'll tell you the Constitution of Saudi Arabia is the Holy Quran and the Hadith. And then they have basic law. You read that basic law, it's all about their monarchy and Islam. You will not see in that constitution you have a right, freedom of religion. No, because it is not a secular state. They don't have a secular state. They have a theocratic state, a state based on religion. That Sharia is their basic law.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Jabata, to cut in down, ask a question, that they have a theoretical state where the theocratic rather,
based on religion.
Based on religion. And now you are a Democrat, you believe in democracy. Someone made this argument that how if now the majority of the population want to establish a religious state?
Yeah, so that is the wrong notion people perpetuate about democracy. You know, it's the voice of the majority. No. The democracy, the values of democracy are inclusion, equality, justice, participation, representation. All right? It is not a matter of the majority is right and the minority is wrong. That's not democracy. No. So let's understand the very concept, the very idea of democracy, because, and we don't have to go anywhere to know that in our own country here, this is the Republic of the Gambia. In the 1997 Constitution, Section 1, subsection 1, says that the sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the people of the Gambia. So as far as our constitution is concerned, there's no minority. There's no majority. All Gambians are equal. It says the sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the people of the Gambia, that the state derives its legitimacy and authority from the people and perform their functions on behalf of and for the welfare of the people. So who is the majority or the minority?
Mr. Dwade, these people that you are referring to hold different ideas. That's why there's election, and in the elections you have different people voting in different ways. Now, when it comes to deciding whether or not we are going to adopt this constitution, it must go to a referendum.
Yes.
Now, I'm putting it to you: if the majority of the Gambians say they want to establish a religious state, why should that principle of majority rule in a democracy not apply?
No, I'm not saying it won't apply. If you go to a referendum, it's yes or no. So if the majority vote yes, the question stands, the constitution stands. If the majority voted no, then that constitution doesn't stand. We'll have to go to another referendum, and another referendum until we get the yes vote. So, but before we get there, we need to get this clarity, so that, you know, these kind of notions don't confuse us, that democracy is about the majority. no, let us not get to that point. Let us deal with our republic right now. In this Gambia, we have Muslims and Christians, and by numbers, Muslims constitute a larger percentage than Christians and other religions and so on. But even those majority Muslims must recognize that your majority Muslim status does not give you any superiority, of anything over the rest of the Gambian population, even if there is one man who believes in Christianity or does not believe in God. Your majority, because you are majority, you don't have any more right than that person to the destiny of the Gambia. Because you are all equal citizens. So that needs to be made so that our people understand that we are a republic. And in this republic, we need to create a law in which all of us, the constitution is like a path, a big street. Mm-hmm. Can we create a big street where we all can walk? Nobody will step on anyone's toes. Nobody will hit anybody. But everybody can run. Those who want to jump, they can jump. Those who want to swim, they can swim. But nobody would really harm another person on this big street. That is the point. And if we really care about the welfare, the destiny, the peace and stability, the development of this republic, where we all belong, where no one can say, I'm better than you, I'm more equal than you, I'm superior to you, or so. Let us create a constitution, all right, which is the basic law, that we all can live and practice our religions as much as we want. And secularity, should not be brought down to the issue of how I worship my religion. Because secularity has nothing to do with how you worship your religion. It's just saying you have a right to worship your religion in the way you do it. So those who are dragging secularity into the very practice of religion are really, derailing, what is happening.
Yeah, Mr. Jawad, to cut you again there before I get back, engage the others here. Is this idea of equality, does it really exist? Because if, let's say, UK is secular, and that a Muslim being there, you cannot marry 2 wives or 4 to 4 wives, for example, or you have 26 popes or bishops in the House of Commons and so forth. Where is the idea of equality really existing on earth?
Okay, Tony. UK is UK. Huh? China is China.
But this idea has been discussed here are from there.
No, they are not from there. You see, they may have been there, because they were there before those things are discussed. But even if there was never a UK, a Europe, there is no doubt that, we will get to these points. Because eventually, the world is not standing at one place. So we will get there at one point. And so, for them being there before, or we are using the English language, secularity or democracy is English language, does not make it theirs. No, this is a human thing. All right? So, UK has a history. All right? How their governance, democracy developed in their society. That's a particular history. We don't share that history. UK, they have a House of Commons who are not elected. They have a queen who goes and opens the parliament. It doesn't make sense to me at all, and I don't agree with it. If I'm to decide in UK, they will abolish the kingdom right now. But I'm not English, I'm not British. That is them. It doesn't harm me, it doesn't disturb me. So let's talk about the Gambia. Okay? And when we say equality of citizens, equality in human rights, we are talking about equality before the law. We are talking about equality of opportunities. For example, somebody raised the issue of mosque in public places. And again, we see people, getting very agitated by that. But we the Muslims, let's think deeply. Because when this thing came up, and I think we got to really talk frank talk to each other in our faces. When they talk, I've had a lot of Muslim scholars speak about this issue and ordinary people. Gambians have been living, Muslims and Christians, harmoniously since time immemorial. that we are a tolerant society. And I said, that is not true. We are not. If we are tolerant, it is not Muslims are tolerant. It's Christians are tolerant. And let me give you practical stuff that we all share. No. You know, I live in Kembuje. Between my house and the mosque in Kembuje is about 400 meters or less. Between my house and the mosque, there is a Christian family, a set of Christian families directly in front of the mosque. Yeah? Every day, 6 a.m., the azan is called. And after that, some cassette is put in and some preacher is preaching. All right? Or the Quran is being recited. From that 6 a.m. all the way down. Now, I'm in my house. I hear noise, sound, but I cannot figure out what actually they say because, you know, it is a long distance. And I wondered myself, why do they do this? At this time, you know, people are sleeping. People pray their fajr, they are back to their sleep. What is the point of playing this music? But they do it. Now, I as a Muslim, if I go and raise that question, I'm sure somebody is going to insult me. Much more, if one of those Christian family members go and say, look, can you reduce the volume of your mosque? Or after the azan, can you not play this, you know, cassette again, this recitation? I am sure if that information got out to the middle of Kembuje, some youths are coming to attack that family. I have no doubt they will burn down that house. All right? Fine. Fine. All right? Okay. I mean, you know, they will be insulted. You understand? And this is the reality that we have lived with. All right? Jawara got a grant to build a mosque from Saudi Arabia. He had good wisdom to build a mosque over there in Banjo, opposite St. Augustine's. Jammeh came and brought a mosque right inside State House. And since then, put a mosque, you know, you see mosques springing up in every public office. There was a time you would even see Quranic scripts in front of an office door. I don't know whether you noticed that. You come in from Banjul down, on the poles, you will see billboards. Allah is great. You understand? Now, you and I, as Muslims, that is very normal. Yeah, that is very normal. And naturally, we are not going to oppose that. And it may not be a bad thing. It may not be a bad thing. Of course, we are Muslims. But how many Muslims also sit back and think, what about if a Gambian Christian also sees this thing? What kind of feelings can it generate? You see, when people have majority, when people have power, there's a tendency not to consider the feelings, the circumstances of the minority. And so everything looks very normal as we are discussing. But just when these 2 points are end. Right now, as we are talking, just to give you a context, where Muslims are not a majority and things are happening. Look at India. Who are foreign news in India today? There's a huge protest going across India. Because the Indians created a law that effectively would make non-Indians not citizens of India. Muslims. And Indians are resisting because Muslims are a minority in India. As we are talking right now, it is the Gambia defending the Rohingya at The Hague. A country majority Buddhist and a very tiny Muslim population. But if you go to Myanmar, the defense team leading the Myanmar team is a world's leading human rights activist until now, Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi said, what is happening is not any persecution against Muslims. It's just government fighting rebels, rebels, and so Muslims get killed in the crossfire. Now, what Aung San Suu Kyi is doing is sometimes like what we are doing here, because she belongs to a majority population, the majority Buddhists, and it is the tendency when you have that majority to assume that therefore the minority, you know, what they feel doesn't exist.
Yes, Mr. Jawad, let me call you there, so, and Council, you come in. You have a public institution. How do you create efficiency if Muslims should leave their institution, main institution, to walk to a farther distance for them to pray than creating a mosque there in order for them to pray.
Right. So that's why I said it may not be bad to build mosques in public offices, because, as I said, the republic, the people are Muslims and Christians mainly in this country. But should we also consider, then why don't we put also a church there, a chapel there? Why don't we create a prayer place where, I mean, you know, it is not a mosque, it's a prayer space. Because who prays Fajr in his office? Who prays Fajr in his office? The only time we pray at the office is 2 o'clock. Who prays 5 o'clock in his office? Some. But very few. The official closing time here is before 5. Who prays, you know, I mean, does prayer in the mosque? Who prays 9 o'clock in the mosque? So if you put a mosque in the church, really, how much do you use that mosque? In the public office, okay? So that we need to, yeah, so that we need to think about this. You know, we need to consider these things very critically. That it may not be bad to put a mosque in a public office, but let us also understand we are a republic and we share with other people. How do we cater for those other people? And that is where equality and justice comes in terms of, you know, even Islam.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Jabare. He came late and he have successfully covered all the time that he missed.
So I can go.
No.
To stay and listen, people listen to you. Yes.
I mean, the time that we have missed, you have covered it, but now you can continue in parity. Mr.
Thank you very much. You see, I'm so much delighted to realize or to be in touch, you know, with my uncle Jobate. The points he's raised, I think it demonstrated his lack of understanding of the basic fundamentals of Islam. Because first, he raised a point like Islam, there would have been no system if Islam was the leading religion or the religion of the state that would have catered for the road constructions or, let's say, the rights of the minority, the Christians, and so on and so forth. And the people wouldn't have been at liberty to practice the religion that they had preferred. But if you read the glorious Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had clarified to us in verse 151 of chapter 2 that like ikraha fi din. Now that context was revealed in a moment when Muslims, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was leading and governing the Muslim affairs, alongside the Muslims had already dominated more than 1/3 of the world at the time, and the Muslims, including Europe, they had been governing. Under their governance were atheists, under their governance were Christians, under their governance were Coptic Jews, and so on. These people were being provided in under Islamic legislation or Islamic system. There is a section, a special provision for people who are non-Muslims. So the state is obliged. In the prophetic terms, the Prophet ﷺ stated that any person who lives under an Islamic state, by the recognition of the leadership of the state, and any other person who is a Muslim harms this person, that Muslim had committed treason against the state of Islam for harming this person. In Islam, there's a provision for engineering, there's a provision for medication, there's a provision for social standards of life. Now, calling Quran music, I don't think, I think that may be like a slip of a tongue. But I don't think like any atheist on earth would want to compare or try to term or categorize Quran as a form of a music on its own. The Quran is a spiritual enlightenment. The Quran is a protection. The Quran is a protection. The Quran is a guidance. The Quran is a complete system of legislation that Allah Ta'ala revealed unto the human beings. But the Quran is very true. He's just proven the Quran right. If you read the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Isra, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِدُّ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. The Quran, Allah revealed in its mercy. He revealed in its cure. He revealed in its solution for the whole of the problems of humanity. The Quran contains the answers to the questions that have been raised, and that are raised, and that will be raised until the day of resurrection. The Quran contains all the hierarchies that any human being can come about under governance. There is a provision for every sector of development under Quran. In fact, if you want to learn about the basic fundamental knowledge of engineering, you should read the Quran. If you want to know about science, medication, you should read the Quran. If you want to study about oceanology, read the Quran. If you want to study about geography, read the Quran. You want to be the perfect governor who does justice to his people, read the Quran. Now the Quran, or the Islamic system, being the dominant of the state, let me put to you in a summary of the Islamic system of of governance, so that my uncle understands that the Islamic system of governance, because at the beginning of his statement, what he presented is not different from an Islamic system of governance, allowing the people to practice the religion that they are liberty to practice. There is not a single provision in Quran or Sunnah that says to any Muslim, other people living in an Islamic state must be killed or they must by force revert to Islam. There is not such term in Islamic law. So Islamic system of governance is in the following way. When you come to secularism, preaching secularism and trying to reframe it and then defaming others or declining their comprehension of secularism will mean that you are coming up with a new face of secularism, because this is not how the philosophers who brought about that term presented it to us. So if you want to come and say, oh, secularism doesn't mean that, then you have a new version of secularism that you are just about to introduce. Now, when it comes to Islamic system of government, in a parliament, but there is what is called a consultative council, al-Majlis al-Shura. So if there was a consultative council, we would not be in the chaos we are in the Gambia today. The Islamic system of governance puts it to the following way. You see all the regions, the administrative regions of the Gambia, each region will go back to their community. Each region will identify the experts in the fields of engineering, the experts in the field of medicine, the experts in the field of governance, the experts in the field of history, people who can fix societal problems, people who can bring the people in a unified format. Why isn't the government able to deal with it? The police are turning onto the religious authorities because the government doesn't have the solution to them. The government imports and is based on the importation of theories that have been a failure in the West for centuries back. The same failures will never be able to fix our problems. So the problem will keep escalating until we get back to that light, that illumination upon it, read it with an open, independent mind, then we'll be able to track the solutions that we have been cornered and shouting about over. The Islamic system, there will be Majlis al-Shura. In this Majlis al-Shura, you have a component that represents every region of the country, irrespective of whether that region is a dominant Christian region, or is a Muslim, or a Judaism, or a Buddhist, or a Zoroastrian, or a Sikhist religion, or a Sikh region. Now, these representatives come together in what we call in a modern legislation, parliament, or Congress, or House of Representatives, as you put it. These Majlis al-Shura consultative members, they will have the right to impeach the head of state if the head of state is not serving the needs of the people. This Majlis al-Shura, they will be in touch with communal leadership. For example, every community, the Larikunda, the Talendings, they will all have their youth leaders. These youth leaders will be representing the voice of the people. We don't have the threats of demonstration on our ways, because everything that displeases the people, they will just go back to their youth representative or their community representative, put their things to that man, and the person puts it forth to the consultative council. Then the consultative council, from an independent judgment viewpoint, they will reason with it, and if it is worth addressing, they will address it. If the state wants to do injustice to any community, including the Christians in the state, their rights are protected. They are entitled to go into church. They are entitled to marry. They are entitled to work in the government. They are entitled to any basic fundamental human right. But the Gambia has denied. If the Muslims of the Gambia were not tolerant, we would not have been in the Gambia we are today. We would have just been in another post-conflict, or we would have just been in the middle of chaos. Let me give you examples. The constitution, even the draft constitution of the Gambia, if you look at section 3, subsection 1A, it says there a political party shall not be formed on the basis of religion, ethnicity, race, so on, so forth, so forth. So putting Islam in those contents that are in fact threatening to the community, put the religion, of course, it's not specific to only Islam alone, but it denies the people their basic fundamental right, the people who have the belief that their book has the superiority, their book has the solutions, not the Westerner. The Westerner lives in a sickness. The Westerner needs my help. I don't need the help of the Westerner. So the people who believe in those fundamentals, you deny them their right to come up together and set up a political system that they believe will govern them according to the basis of their religion. That is no threat. Don't be deceived by what is put to you by the media against extremism. Let's look at this extremism. This George Galloway, you know, the former British parliamentarian, he said America invaded the Britain on a pack of lies. Word for word quotation. They invaded Britain during the United Nations investigation on the Oil for Food program. You may have followed it. He said the US invaded Iraq on a pack of lies, and they murdered over 1 million innocent Iraqi citizens, and they stole more than $60 billion of Iraqi wealth went missing. And what is the justification? We thought there were weapons of information. The CIA said that, the CIA said this. Now, the citizens of this country, they have the right to defend their wives, their mothers. If someone comes to your house and kill your woman and do everything, You have the right to defend your home. When these people fight back, then they are the terrorists. But who is the cause of the terror? Were these people doing this? Were they suicide bombing before their invasions? So we have to look at things from an honest, fundamental, rightful historical background to be on the right track. Now, on my conclusion, Islam is a complete system of legislation that God Almighty revealed unto His Prophet. The following words are said unto him. If you read the glorious Quran, Surah Anbiya, the book of the prophets, chapter 21, verse 107, Allah said to him, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He did not say إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ. He did not say إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah said, we did not send you with this mission and with this book except as a mercy to the whole of the created beings, including the human beings, including the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, the Buddhists, the Sikhs, the Zoroastrians, including the donkeys on the streets. Their rights are protected by Islam. That dog that walks on the street, that cat, that rat that lives in your house, that ant in its hole, the fish in the ocean, their rights have been protected by Islam. So Islam is a complete system of life. Except a person fails to understand it, you would want to say like it's concept. So Islam promotes engineering, it promotes diversity, it promotes education, it allows people to practice their religion that they believe in. It opens the call. So I will conclude it by the quotation from Surah Al Imran. Allah puts it to the non-Muslims, including the people of the book. Chapter 3, verse 64. Kul ya ahlal kitab, say unto the people of the book, your neighbors, ta'alaw come ila kalimatin unto our sawa'in bainana wa bainakum, that we are all equitable to form. Allah na'budu illallah. Let us not worship any except Allah. Wala nusrika bihi shay'a, and we do not associate partners with him. Wala yattakhidha ba'duna ba'dan arbaban min dunillah, fa in tawallaw faqulu ashhadu bi anna muslimun. The same similar provisions are provided in numerous verses of the glorious Quran. So when you come to section 135 of the Constitution, which also blocks the ways of the fundamental, the foundations of the Gambia on their way to the parliament. We know very well there are a lot of resourceful scholars in this country with a lot of potential that can uplift this country from the grounds to the skies. But they have been denied and they have been blocked by the parliament. The provision says there, based on the criteria for the nomination of a parliamentarian, English language. Why English language? Arabic language was also being practiced. There are lots of scholars who also learn that, and they are graduates, PhD holders in the fields of economics, history, whatever field that is productive to state development. They are graduates in this country. So if you want to limit it to English language, for example, what was the state's name? The neighboring state to Germany, they are a small nation. The country. They have up to three official languages that they've recognized. So there are lots of Westerners, there are Arabs and whatever country that you can call them, that have more than one official language that allows people that study from diverse backgrounds of languages to participate in state development. Our religious scholars, if they are given the chance to be at the parliament, this country, the tribalism that we're facing today, one of the greatest threats in this country is ethnocentrism. One of the greatest threats in this country is ignorance being given the chance to lecture the conscious minds about their poisonous, contents. I'm talking to you about the reality.
Yes.
Now listen, when it comes to conclusion on that aspect, you see, we respect our people. We respect the diversity. We recognize that diversity. And then we are so tolerant. If we have not been tolerant, we would have been in the midst of crisis. That is why we have been tolerant. That's why Christians walk on the streets. I witnessed it. They block a whole of traffic, often without even legal permits, working with all kinds of identity, practicing and demonstrating their faith. Christian comes to our homes, my home, come down, I give them a seat and water, sit, and they invite me to their faith, and we reason, and we laugh, and we shake hands, and they walk away. That is tolerance. Muslims in this country, they are the most tolerant people. Their tolerance is too much that it has been translated as a weakness. So the Gambia will move forward and can move forward, but the Muslim community needs to go back to its scriptures, and the Christian community needs to go back to its scriptures. Let's agree on the commonalities. Let's not, try to rephrase terms and redefine terms and then put them in ways that is different from their sources of origin.
Yes. Thank you for your submission. I just want to may I please advise all the panelists, please do have make a summary of your submission so that we address some of the points that you do raise there. All that you have raised here is well noted, but I want to observe that you did one thing, that you are speaking on the basis of a belief that the Holy Quran provided a complete way of life, right? Yeah. You're speaking on the belief that the Holy Quran provides a complete way of life. The Christian would have speak in the same way that the Holy Quran, the Holy Bible provides a complete way of life. The Buddhists, the Jews, and every other individual who has a belief, they will speak with the belief that their religion provides a complete way of life. Now, should England or China or India also use the principle that their religion, let's say Buddhism, provides a complete way of life, and that it should be the state religion, and that everything regarding India should be built around Hinduism? How will the others survive there? Consider that their religion may prohibit certain issues that Christians or Muslims living there want to practice.
Now, you have already answered your question earlier when you were putting questions to my uncle Jobate here.
I didn't realize.
Yes, you mentioned to him earlier that the principles or the basis of democracy that are portrayed to us are that the majority wins. And now, if you look at the term democracy from the Greek word power in people. So the government or the legislation does not dictate from their independent viewpoint. Rather, the majority are the dictates of what governs them. If those democratic principles were untrue, we would not have animals married with humans in the Scandinavia. That is the case in Scandinavia. That is the case in the whole of the West. That is why whatever the majority of the people want to live with, they advocate for that, and it is voted at the parliament. Why did the Congress succeed in the impeachment vote over Donald Trump? Because majority voted for impeachment. So majority always comes in any community. Now, the majority advocating for their common belief does not, in fact, reject the views of the minority. It does not, in fact, suppress the minority. But if you want to use the minority to say, okay, let's compare this, it's like what you're saying to me. It's just like you come into this room here, and then majority of the people, let's say 95% of the people agree here, let's have the talks from 3 until 6. And then some 3, 4, 5 people came and said, well, that doesn't favor me. I want to, we would rather prefer having it 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, you're saying, like, if you go by the majority, the view of this majority here, we are doing injustice to the minority. That is what, what I mean. So if I'm talking about the Quranic viewpoint, whatever the Islamic principle represents, in fact, agrees with the true fundamental statements of the Bible. There's not a single statement of the Quran or a single virtue of the Quran that suppresses any faith. Quran is very straightforward, and Islam is very straightforward. So what I was advocating is the Islamic system of governance. We are very straightforward.
I agree.
Theocracy instead of democracy. That's exactly what I was advocating. And I was lecturing on what are the basis, the foundation, the formation of that legislation, the system of legislation.
I agree 100%. I understand that. My question is, would that not affect the being of Christians and Muslims in India? Should the Indians use their religion as, should the Indians build their system based on their religion?
Should the Indians put their system based on the religion? We are going by the front. You know, in Islam, you don't go by, let me just answer your question. In Islam, you don't go by the principles of only majority. You don't also go by the principles of, what the people only think, but you go by the truth. If Muslims were a minority, even in the Gambia, it would have still been right for the majority of the Gambia to open their minds to the logical reason, the Islamic viewpoint of governance. And whosoever is an honest human being and understands the Islamic system of governance in comparison to whatever any other system of governance, they would certainly know that the Islamic system of governance provides a better protection to the people. The Islamic system of governance provides a better system of education. The Islamic system of governance provides a better system for morals. The Islamic system of governance, of course, permits and allows diversity and even promotes it. That is why Muslims have been governing Europe. There was a Muslim governor in Spain for 800 years. The Christians were living there. The Jews were there.
Yes.
Yes.
That's noted.
What the Indians are doing, no Muslim would ever be allowed to do from at least an Islamic perspective, to deny the people their citizenry right just because of their faith. Islam never does.
That is condemned. And the reason why it's condemned is because India is taken to be a secular state, and that is everyone has a right to practice whatever belief that they want, and that based on their belief, they should not be held accountable based on the ideas that they hold on to. But in a let me say, in an extreme theoretical state, or theocratical state rather, like Saudi Arabia, you know there is not even the least consideration of what we regard here as minority views, because they are not counted at all. That's why I'm putting the proposition to you that if the same strict observation of the Hindus, laws and so forth was to be used to govern India, would that not affect the Christians?
Those will be direct tools to promote the Islamic agenda. If in India, any religion you go back, I got your question.
My point is, it's not about whether it's going to promote or so forth.
I got your point.
I'm saying whether it will not affect them in that practice of their religion.
It will not. I'm coming. If India introduces a legislation that is based on the Bhagavad Gitas, you understand? The Khalki Puranas, they are religious books. Those religious books, the authenticity of those religious books promote Islamic values. So gradually, there will just have been a change of name, but the system will still stay, even if Muslim turns into majority. You see, Allah Ta'ala said something. Let me come back to that. No, I will conclude one verse. Chapter 61, verse 9. Allah Ta'ala said, Huwa, He Allah, the creator and sustainer of the universe, who will soon seize our souls from our bodies and hold us accountable for whatever theory that we represent and whatever belief that we stand, whether we are rebels against His system, the Supreme Lord, the creator and sustainer of all things, or if we are, advocates and soldiers that are defending the true principles that defend the progress and the safety of humanity. Chapter 61, verse 9. Allah said there, He it is, وَالَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى, He it is who sent His messenger with guidance, وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ, and the religion of truth, لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ, so that it will prevail, it will dominate, and it will conquer the world in all aspects, وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ, even وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ, even if the world dislikes that, even the supremacists, the imperialists, whatever policy they can come. So Islam is meant to dominate, it's meant to conquer, but it does not come to suppress people. And if Muslims are a minority, they are, of course, to allow the majority, whatever system they do. Islam never tells the people to go fight against governments and implement their own system.
Yeah, thank you. But one common principle that all religions see around the world is that they believe they will dominate, and therefore again it's based on.
Well, common logic will tell that. Common logic will tell which religion is dominated.
Yes, I mean I'm talking of the commonality of religion. What they see in common is that the common belief that they will dominate. You have earlier on gave us some of the. You have touched one or two of the importance of secularism. Will you elaborate why it is an idea that you buy into?
For me, the reason why I say secularism, see, we need to be very careful as a country. When we are talking about secularism for the Gambia, we need to give it the Gambian context. We've gone through gross human rights violations for the past 23 years. Yeah, Jammeh had so much power, and we were able to change that. Although he mutilated it 58 times, he did that to suit himself. He mutilated the constitution 58 times, right? But if we want a constitution that will last us for the next 20 to 30 years, we need to have a very inclusive constitution. That we need to provide for. This debate on secularism is not just going to divide the country. It will make us set up another commission in the next 7 years. Because whether we like it or not, this country is progressive. People have their beliefs. The people saying that secularism should be included, should not be included, they are not more Muslims than those saying that it should be included in the constitution. That's the fact. And I believe that the state shouldn't interfere in what people believe or what their religious matters are. When I say secularism, or maybe when another person says secularism, they're referring to the state. What do people choose to believe? What they choose to practice? That's on their own. But when it comes to the state that we voted in, we want every single person to be considered and included, including the minority.
What they choose to practice include that the state held them up. They now started, they're telling you now, we want the state to control our life, the life of the people, what they believe and what they not believe in.
We want the state to provide services for every single person.
I mean, the majority are saying they want the state to control religion. or to use religion to govern them.
We've had a state here that controlled this country, and we know what happened. Giving that state that much power, we know what is going to happen in the next 10 years. And we need to avoid that as a country. See, when it comes to constitutionalism, every single constitution needs to be resilient. Otherwise, we're going to put ourselves in a situation where we find ourselves, for instance, in 2016 or for the past 22 to 23 years. We need to avoid that as much as possible. See, when you're drafting a constitution, you don't just consider the current state of that country. You need to consider the future generation. What is this country going to be in the next 10 or 20 years? And if you ask me, I will not tell you it's going to be an Islamic state. That is never going to happen.
Well, my brother did vow that you're going to make it an Islamic state.
You see, I think my sister is, she easily goes to what's it called, facts. Facts are not just established on your individual opinion. When you say people who advocate for secularism and those who say it should not be included are no better Muslims than Muslims, you should leave that to the diverse. What you're doing is like not being able to
see
like developing a phobia.
When you talk the point you made. No, this is my point. Let me finish. The point you made, right? The point you made. Everything about Islam, I completely agree with you. I'm Muslim. The points that I'm making, it doesn't mean I'm not Muslim.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm just telling you.
Yes.
You understand? Because there's this person. It's not just in this room. Whether we like it or not, the whole country is talking about this. Right? But when the points that you made about Islam having a perfect system, fine. I want that to apply to every single person in this country, if it means well. But the state, we need to consider the minority. Look, if we have to be honest, this country is made up of 95% Muslim.
Honest, so much.
Yes, 95% Muslim. That's the fact. Whether you like it or not, we are 95%. We are the majority. And like Mahdi said, just because we are that, doesn't mean that
suppress the others. No,
yes. Now, for the state to come up with solutions that will promote this country for the next 20 to 30 years, we need to make sure that that minority is included in the constitution,
I agree
in all policies. And what is the best way to do that?
The best way to do that is to give Islam a chance to.
Let's say I'm not Muslim. You want to give
and
Islam.
You protect that.
Okay.
You protect that.
Okay. Let's say I'm not Muslim, right? You want to give the Islamic way of doing things the chance. But I don't believe in that. Are you trying to choke it in me or what?
Let me respond. First, the point I was responding on to was when you said that the Muslims who say it should be included secular, and those who say it should be omitted. Those who say it should be omitted are not better Muslims than those who say it should be included.
Yes.
It's like a person having phobia of water. All right? Maybe they have an accident related to that, and they can't even grow near water, and they want to dictate what's in the midst of the ocean. You leave that to the divers. Islam is not open to people's opinion. That's how it is dictated. No. Islam is a legislation that is pure and reserved. So you cannot say Muslims who advocate for it not to be included are not better Muslims of this. We will not argue on who is better and what we will say. From a religious viewpoint, it is wrong. It is wrong to advocate for anything that is against Islam. And secularity or secularism or secular is against Islam.
Okay, now, now can you outline why the merits, why the Gambia?
I will want to take any.
Yes, we definitely respect that. Can you please respond to this? Why do you think Gambia needs a secular constitution?
Because I'm of the firm belief that being majority doesn't give me more right than the minority. I want every single person, including the 0.5% of this country, to be included in all policies and decisions of the state. That is why I want this country to be a secular state.
But I have only one problem. When it comes to deciding what should be and what should not be, it is based on the principle of the majority. And now, I'm putting it to you that the majority want a religious state. How will you survive this?
Can I put something to you? What if the majority wants something that is undemocratic that is in the constitution?
Like?
For instance, right? Something like every single person, every single man has the right to rape a woman. Let's say an instance where the majority agrees to that. No, I know, but it's just an example. No, what he's saying, what he's saying is that what the majority wants is what should stand. Now my question is, what if what the majority wants is wrong?
That is how your democratic principles puts it. But
that is not how that is not a democratic principle. That is not. Maybe according to your research. But that is not a democratic principle.
Now for you want me to believe that the majority have the right to decide but they does not decide on all matters, or there are matters that the majority cannot decide on. Is that your case?
My point is this. There is this notion that maybe you should have warned me that I'll be in the midst of the majority. Yeah, you should have warned me. But my point is this, right? There's this notion that majority rules, that the majority governs, right? But there's something called constitutional resilience, right? And for that to exist, which is what we need as a country, right? Let me give you an instance. In my house, I might have everything I need. You understand? I have 7 kids, but there's a kid down there who lives alone. Will I say because I have more people to feed, I don't have a reason to feed that one child? And for that community to survive, they should rule according to the way I'm ruling my house, just because I'm majority.
But no one advocates for that.
It's the same thing you're saying. It's the same thing you're saying. You said the best way to rule this country or any other country by excluding the word secularism is by following the Islamic way. And in the context of this Gambia, it's mainly because Islam is the majority.
That does not in any way suppress any minority groups.
That is what you think because you are in the majority position.
No. Give me one example, one principle of Islam that suppresses the minority. One, just one.
It is not about Islam. This is about the narrative you are making. It's about the narrative you are making.
Come on, it's not about me. Yes.
It's the narrative you're making. You're sounding the way you sound because allow me, please.
I do.
Allow me.
But you just,
You're sounding the way you sound. I'm not beating about here. Please, let's be respectful.
No.
We need to be respectful in the open. Yeah, allow me to finish.
You are being conquered by your emotions.
I'm not being conquered by emotions.
Tony, I don't think
Allow me to finish.
Don't bring, no, listen. Don't bring ants and elephants in the same form. And
Now you're being disrespectful.
Just listen. No, listen. It's getting out of control. Just listen. Let me suggest to you one word. You know very well. You've been listening to her. I put my points in a very respectful manner. My third class students will give it. But just put things easy. You understand? The words he is being put in, they are a bit bad. Yeah, but I'm putting to him like she needs to control her emotions and watch her words. You know, we're not here to disrespect one another. I do not disrespect anyone in my words. I speak hard facts and I quote reference to defend my argument. So she has the right to do so. But whatever fact I put should not, in fact, make her go out of emotions and respond in some way.
We're not doing emotions here.
No, control your emotions.
We're not doing emotions. The problem is.
Please.
Allow me to finish.
Yeah, please, allow me.
Let me bring up 5 minutes. My time is fine.
I'm saying this. I think as a moderator, I give you the chance to speak. For a long time, I give her a chance to speak. In her submission, she also give you the chance to answer some questions. And where she doesn't want you to answer, please allow her to.
It's as simple as that.
No problem. Let's watch our words. Let's watch our words. Just our words.
You just called me an ant in the midst of elephants. That's my problem.
Your words let us
okay.
Let's watch our words.
Okay, clearly. Now, what is your position? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, please.
Very well, sir. Since we respect that principle of secularism, that everyone has a right to a religion, you cannot hold you here.
I came with so much love and respect for this forum,
Thank
and
you.
I even brought some gift for the forum. So
Thank you.
I'm a person. I deal with people, theologians, PhD theologians. I've been in the arguments for them. My third class students are good debaters. You understand? So I don't come into forums to raise things that what I speak hard facts with authentic reference. So let's just control our emotion and what the worst. That's all I ask for. That's all.
Noted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's not hurt each other's. Let's not try or attempt to hurt each other's feelings just because of the facts that we hear. Let's not do that. That's what I'm advocating. Yeah.
Welcome to this question. Let me say now, I'm in charge of my soul. Thank you, sir, for your observation. That is noted. Mr. I will come to you.
Okay.
Mr. Jabari, you have noted that the argument for and against secularism right now is divided along religious lines. So that have been the trend. Or what do you know to have been the cause? It is that people lack understanding of the term secular, and that some people are exploiting it to spread their own narratives, or that what people are saying, or the proposition of Mr. Sane, that secularism is against religion, and that the reverse should have been the case, and that religion should be used to rule the people.
Well, I'm getting a bit lost about the purpose of this forum, so I'm thinking, what's the thing? But the point is secularity or somebody tells me otherwise. Secularity of the state is not against religion. If anything, it serves religion very well. You know, when I sit here, I'm not critiquing any religion, Islam or Christianity. In fact, I made the point beginning the goodness of religion, how religion can improve a person, can humanize, can civilize a person. So religion is good for people. So I don't know, because that's a whole new thing for me to, you know, for anyone to promote the idea of Gambia becoming an Islamic republic. Certainly I don't support that. Neither would I support the Gambia becoming a Christian republic. I mean, even if Christians were 99%, I would have opposed that. What I would support is this republic, bearing in mind that is the people who own this country, the citizens of the Gambia, who belong to different faiths, different cultures, different ethnic groups, that we all create a society where we all can perform, practice our beliefs, and live our cultures to the best of our ability, and have a state, public institutions that serve us, all of us, without any problem. You know, he narrated the Islamic governance system, which I know, and which I know is a democratic system. The Islamic governance system is a democratic system, because it talks about representation, it talks about participation, it talks about voice. People go and elect to decide in a transparent way the resources and the affairs of their society. You see, that is one thing. That is, Islam should be separated from Muslims in some cases, because you don't have to have a Islamic republic, for example, in the Gambia, for us to have justice, for us to have equality, for us to have peace, for us to have progress. Because if I am Muslim, like Yahya Jammeh claimed he was a Muslim, the people who work in the government are Muslims. What values? Yeah. What values? What morals? What standards did you uphold? You know, so that we address this thing, critically. Where is the Islamic value, the values, the standards in the Quran? Why is it not impacting on you and me to become that good citizen? All right. Muslim-dominated societies in the world are the richest places in the world. All right, in terms of natural resources, in terms of wealth. But Muslim-dominated societies are also the poorest places on earth. They are the most corrupt societies. They are the most oppressive societies. Now that, this is very obvious for us to observe. Let us look at currently where Muslims are majority in the world. Which countries? And look at the governance there. How many of those places are led by dictators or corrupt governments? And one can sit here and build that narrative, the West, all right? That will only make us feel good, but it is not making us address the fundamental issue. And we will continue to suffer,
Sorry to have cut you. Now I want to take 5-10 minutes break to allow our brother here to pray, and then join us back. And then when you come to the next session, we have